Historic Chester, where last year's World Rally Championship ended and where this year's 5-round British Championship was about to begin, in every sense a festive occasion. There was scrutineering as usual at Chester Racecourse, where officials checked individual cars' eligibility. For the drivers, a chance to meet the rally public and assess the season ahead.
I think it should be fantastic. I mean, because of Ford's recent success in Monte Carlo and Portugal, I think it really bodes well for the rest of this British Championship.
David, a two-wheel drive car, new scene for you.
Yeah, totally new scene. I mean, four-wheel drive, I think, for 6 or 7 years, so this is all a little bit different for me.
How have you adapted to it?
Well, we've done very few miles, really. We did 3 days last week in the forest in Mid-Wales doing a bit of testing, and it feels good, and the car feels very good.
Also back on the scene, the Audi, a welcome return to rallying after 7 years, and a new young driver at the wheel, Johnny Milner. With the new season again see the young Turks putting pressure on the more established drivers.
I can remember when I was like 22, 23-year-old, like these youngsters behind. And at that time I was capable of putting in very, very quick times, and for sure those boys are going to do exactly the same. I mean, they're going to be there to really try and knock me out of my place.
Obviously Malcolm in the Escort Cosworth is going to go extremely well, so I think it's going to be a lot more interesting this year. It's not going to be a one-horse race.
Malcolm Wilson reckons you might catch him.
Well, Malcolm's got his opinion.
From the start in Chester, it was off through the famous forests of Clochainog, Penmachno and Dyfi, an overnight halt in Aberystwyth, then back north via Haffron and Dyfnant, a total of 138 stage miles to finish at Chester.
The first stages of the new season, Clochainog, and the bookie's favourite Malcolm Wilson, in his very new Escort Cosworth, was instantly showing some very fast form.
Looks to keep going flat right to junction, hairpin right.
The new car in its new Michelin Pilot colours shows Ford's intent to end the Subaru supremacy established by Colin McRae last season. But 23-year-old Richard Burns, fastest on both the opening stages, showed that the Subaru challenge was far from spent. His teammate, promoted after his superb Shell Scholarship performances last year, was Alistair McRae.
Medium right, left, or not as map at the moment, maybe square right here. Okay, easy left, tightens to medium left, and right, into K left. Well, take as you say, Alistair, it's not as map.
The Scot immediately settled into top 4 flying form.
It was very much a learning experience for David Llewellyn in the Works Astra. He drove it for the first time just 10 days before this new Formula 2 championship for two-wheel drive cars. He was having to apply a totally different driving technique and admitted that it was a challenging experience. His co-driver and veteran campaigner Ian Grindrod from Blackburn. Robbie Head from Lanark was a leading contender in Group N for showroom cars. An ambition to get a works drive had finally come true. After 9 months out of rallying, it was great to be back. One of the eagerly awaited confrontations would see Head literally head-to-head with Gwyndaf Evans, the Welshman so comfortable on his home territory. A new car, a Ford Escort Cosworth for Gwyndaf, and determination to give his Welsh fans something to cheer about. As ever, he was in with a shout. Ulsterman Stephen Finlay was leading the old cars in a Sierra prepared by Malcolm Wilson. He won the opening round of the Mintex series this year. This event, he claimed, would act as a test run before the next round. 24-year-old Johnny Milner was enjoying his drive in the Shell Scholarship Audi. Milner was in a new team, but why the new car?
We had a lot of success, as you know, last year with Ford, but the Audi opportunity came along, and it was a new car for us to develop with Audi. And of course our relationship with Audi goes back 10 years in the UK, so it was a new car, a new opportunity.
And how's Johnny performing today? Are you pleased with that?
Yes, his job is to drive it for the first time, as you know, and not put it anywhere where he shouldn't, and finish hopefully back in Chester tomorrow. So it's the first event of the championship, so very much a learning curve for him as well.
Although he almost threw the event away, spinning 3 times on the opening stages.
Manchester's Rob Barry exported his expertise to win honours in Belgium last season. The Welsh trails were quite a challenge after the European tarmac. Kelso's Dominic Buckley and his father built this welcome new entrant to the British Championship, a Mitsubishi Lancer. He soon leapt to second place in the Group N battle. Quite a performance. Peugeot's contender for Formula 2 trophies, the 205 driven by Paul Frankland. He was determined to give the more experienced David Llewellyn a run for his money. We remember Mad Mick Jones affectionately for his RAC rally exploits, such as passing 40 cars in one day. There were no such heroics this time. His gearbox exploded on the second stage. This is Kevin Ferber. He claimed a top 4 Formula 2 spot in his borrowed Peugeot before coming to grief on the Istworth stage. Mark Higgins was runner-up in last year's Lombard Junior Championship. Now he was showing his senior skills, second here in Formula 2, despite this misfire. Another Welshman enjoying his home advantage. Tim Ellis-Jones, stepping up from national rally success to the big championship. Sweden's Thomas Abrahamsson was doing it the hard way, carrying his own spares because he couldn't afford a service crew for his Sierra. Sadly, his gearbox expired on the very first stage.
Shropshire's Steve Wedgbury, who made his name driving a Skoda, was now in the Vauxhall Nova, once driven by Alistair McRae. By reaching the end of stage 3, Barry McGuigan was now further into a British Championship round than he'd been before, running and raising money for charity. So was Dick Archer in the Astra. Unfortunately for him, he didn't make it as far as the very first services. So 3 stages down and 9 to go as the rally reached Alwyn services. All this rallying done without place notes, so the co-drivers having to map read to determine the severity of the bends. Easy it was not.
I tell you, it's very difficult driving blind again. Big lack of confidence initially, that's for sure. I'm just so used to pace notes, and then to come back and drive like this and seeing blind crest and not know what's after it. You've got to readjust to get a feeling for the rally again. You know, it is a completely different ballgame to me.
You were actually lying just behind Richard Burns after a couple of stages.
I told you that these youngsters wouldn't be hanging around.
I think you gave Malcolm Wilson a bit of a shock there on the first 2 stages.
Well, you can see his tracks everywhere. You can see where he's braking, and I was just braking and lifting off where he was. And probably Alistair's probably doing the same things.
And how does it compare with the Group N car of last year?
It's totally different. We're just really taking our time trying to get to drive the car properly. It's not coming too easily at the moment, but I'm sure it will within the next couple of stages or so.
What is the difference in the technique between driving a 4-wheel drive and this one?
Well, the main difference obviously is that the front of the car is doing the driving, and when you come into a corner, it's important to get the front wheels pointing the same way as the car. So you need to steer with the back of the car with your left foot on the brake, and then keep the wheels reasonably straight to go through the corner. I think if it's too sideways, I've been driving it a little bit too sideways, I think, because I've been like that. You've got too much lock going the wrong way into the corner, and I think you just lose all the speed coming out of the corner.
Stunning Snowdonia, but there was little chance for the crews to admire the scenery, for this is hair-raising drop and hairpin territory. Malcolm Wilson, the rally leader at Penmacno, showed precisely how to keep your Michelins on course. But the 2 youngsters in the Subarus were in hot pursuit. First Richard Burns and then Alistair McRae, giving us a driver's eye view of his hairpin technique.
That's almost a K. And long right to hairpin right junction. Let's see how this goes.
And This is Rod Barry showing us how not to do it. He was lucky to get away with that one. Gwyndaf Evans won the Group N battle in 1988 and 1990. Now he led the group by 1.5 minutes in the unleaded Vector Escort, despite this bit of brinkmanship. But the homemade Mitsubishi of Don Buckley and Dougie Redpath was still second, pulling away from Robbie Head, who had fuel pump failure here. Roger Davis had problems too. He had an untimely electrical switch off.
"70, 90 right junction, it's hairpin.
The Formula 2 battle was coming to the boil. Llewellyn was in the lead, showing just how tricky the hairpins could be.
Okay, right. Yeah, right.
The view from our helicopter may suggest a wide, flat road.
Long
But the
into
in-car
easy left.
camera told a different story. Little margin for error here, with drops of more than 200 feet.
Into fast right. Into fast right, continues.
The Peugeot of Paul Franklin was Llewellyn's closest rival. Mark Higgins was third in Formula 2 in his all-white, totally unsponsored car. In the Lombard Junior Challenge for drivers under 27 and cars up to 1600cc, Brendan Creeley was way out in front. Another youngster on the move, 18-year-old Mark Blair, who's still at school. Clegg Services at Blaenau Festiniog, the Subaru mechanics hard at work on Alistair McRae's car.
Well, we've had some problems with the diff pressure, the centre diff pressure dropping off from almost the start of the rally. So they now know what it is, so they're going to change the gearbox and hopefully that should cure the problem. I'm finding I'm fighting with the car a lot rather than me on top of the car's on top of me at the moment. So I'm not sure whether this has got something to do with the diff pressure or not, I don't know. Hopefully once they have the box repaired then we'll find out.
On stage 4, about a quarter of a mile from the end of the stage, we had no power at all. I couldn't understand, I thought it was maybe electrical or something. So we coasted out the stage, quite lucky it was all downhill to the finish. And then we radioed the mechanics, they came and couldn't diagnose it straight away, but then eventually they found out it was a fuel pump that had packed up completely. So they had to replace it, which cost us 11 minutes of penalty time.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The experts had expected Malcolm Wilson to be way ahead by nightfall.
Right, Max, long.
It was not to be. As 56 survivors drove into Dovey, Malcolm only had an 18-second advantage over the battling Richard Burns. Malcolm's own prediction of the threat from the young ones was coming true. Alistair McRae was 40 seconds behind his teammate, back on the pace after a gearbox change.
50. K left minus. Opens and tightens to tight. Hairpin right. Tight hairpin right.
Johnny Milner in the Group N Audi was certainly putting his disc brakes to the test. Just watch him go and glow. Paul Franklin was still holding a top 4 place in the Formula 2 fray, but Jeff Stewart was facing an uphill struggle, literally.
We broke the half shaft, and the problem is that it's uphill and it just won't get enough momentum up to pull the car over the brow.
How long ago did this happen?
Just on this corner here.
Well, you've actually just broken the
Just
shaft.
broke it on one of these rocks here, yeah.
So
when I shoved it into first to pull away, that was it.
What does that mean for you?
Means a non-finish.
Right.
Back home for an early bath.
At the end of the stage, David Llewellyn was refreshingly honest about his performance.
Right, another bit of learning now, nighttime driving in the two-wheel drive.
That's right. It's more difficult at night, obviously, because you can't see and you haven't got the visibility. And we just had a bit of a whoopsie to 3 corners from the end there, and I really just went really wide and over some logs, and it was all a bit exciting for a minute.
Yeah, right. You mustn't do that. You're supposed to be leading the group too.
That's right. I'm supposed to be keeping it tidy and keeping it together, but it was a bit exciting.
See me pretty face.
You're looking a bit hot and bothered.
A little bit hard work in there, yeah. Good fun though.
Are you finding the handling better now? Are you getting more used to it?
I'm getting more into Group N. The problem is I've been spoilt for 8 years having really good brakes on a Group A car, so this car, as you can probably see, the front discs will be glowing away to themselves merrily. A little bit hard work.
Mark Higgins was now in second place in the Formula 2 fight.
So far so good?
It's getting better now.
Why is that?
We're starting to get into the car and things. We've had a couple of clean runs through there. So it's all coming to now, but Dart is flying.
Oh, so you think David Llewellyn, can you catch him or get anywhere near him?
No, I don't think it's worth trying now. We just stay, I mean, a lot of people are going to have problems here. If we can have a steady run through the night, hopefully we'll be well up there for tomorrow.
You seem to be flying a bit, Brendan.
Yeah, we're going quite well. There's a Cosworth in front that we keep catching, and he's slowing us down quite a bit with the dust. We're going really well. The car is absolutely brilliant.
You're not supposed to be catching four-wheel drive cars with a two-wheel drive car, you know.
Oh, I don't care what's in front of me. I'll catch anything.
The rally was now 8 hours old. Time for a break at Aberystwyth, and time for Malcolm Wilson to reflect on an unexpected second placing. He was 7 seconds behind Richard Burns. The top drivers snatched 2.5 hours sleep, but there was no rest for the mechanics or the less cosseted crews.
A wet, foggy weekend in Wales, nothing new about that. Conditions were appalling. An umbrella kept Malcolm Wilson's screen dry until the last possible moment. His wipers had failed. So it was left to co-driver Brian Thomas with a wire to do a sort of push, pull and wipe. No chance of map reading either. Richard Burns in the Subaru was now well in command of his teammate Alistair McRae, who in spite of the dreadful visibility set the fastest time on Special Stage 10 of about 60 miles an hour, even though he was forced to stop on occasions because of the fog.
That's it, square left. And right through a cattle grid and square left.
Here he comes across Malcolm Wilson. An engine problem lost Wilson 9 minutes, and with it any chance of winning.
Medium left plus into, long medium right minus.
Welshman Kevin Curran was going to need all those lights as he crept into the top 10 in his Ford Sapphire Cosworth. Steve Bennett in the Peugeot was also in the top 10 and heading for his best ever result. Cars may have started at 1 minute intervals, but visibility was so poor you basically found a car and stuck to it. Mercy sakes alive, looks like we got ourselves a convoy.
The weather is unbelievable. I mean, I've never seen fog like that ever before, and it's, you know, with no wipers as well, it's undrivable.
Everybody's saying the conditions are awful. What did you think of them?
I really can't find a word to explain how bad they were, really. I've never seen anything like it. And our problems were made worse because the demister stopped working on the screen, and the screen misted up. So we had mist on the inside and fog on the outside, so it was terrible.
What happened here then, Nigel?
We caught a post on the road section. Had a bit of trouble with the fog and caught the bumper. Nothing serious. That's one of the minor problems. We on the second stage we hauled the sump. On the fourth stage the drive shaft came to bits and the diff circlips came out. So we lost all traction. We had to pull the drive shaft out and put the circlips back in on stage. And then we lost the lights on the following stage. One of the wires come off the alternator, so we're having real trouble.
Yeah, these lads of yours all rolling around in the mud and everything. Are they sort of full-time, paid-for professional mechanics?
They're not, no. Everybody does it off their own bat. They all pay their own expenses, and we work during the week, and on a night we prepare the car.
I bet they're wondering whether they made the right decision to pay to come tonight.
No, I think they have. They said they weren't our keen in getting out the van if I damaged anything, like, so I had to take the last couple of stages fairly steady.
The good news, McGuigan made it through the forest. The bad news, he broke down on the road.
God, it's a frustrating game, this bloody rally, and I'll tell you.
Dawn, but nothing to send postcards home about. The night had claimed 14 victims, but nothing, it seemed, could prevent it being Burns night. The young Subaru star was now 3 minutes clear of teammate McRae, who had lost 2.5 minutes through a puncture.
30, turn, hairpin right. Hairpin right. And easy left minus.
The leading Ford was not Malcolm Wilson, but his 25-year-old Ulster teammate Stephen Finlay in the old Sierra. Something for the Ford men to smile about. Gwyndaf Evans claimed yet another Group N win, a tribute to his mechanic's last-minute completion of his new car. Malcolm Wilson had more than his fair share of misfortune, but never stopped trying and deserved better than his 5th place. Bet he can't wait for the next round. David Llewellyn's two-wheel drive touch was improving all the time, and the rally sponsors celebrated the Astra's Formula 2 triumph.
Easy right. 50. Easy left. Into fast left.
The Lombard Junior Challenge was won easily by Brendan Creeley in the Honda Civic. Ian Scott, one of the Shell Scholarship finalists, was second in his Nova. Roger Davis had overcome his electrical problems to win his class in the Peugeot. Kevin Williams gave the Skoda Brigade yet another class win. Dave Charlton brought his Nova home 11th overall to claim a well-deserved class success. And Nigel Shields gave his muddy mechanics the satisfaction of a hard-fought finish, 26th in the much-abused Clio.
Well, then you made it anyway.
Yes, very pleased. 6th place, you know, first two-wheel drive, and got those important miles under the belt, and, you know, certainly feeling a bit more confident towards the end now with the car. So, brilliant. I'm really pleased.
Glad to be here.
Absolutely, yeah. Delighted.
So, I mean, it's absolutely gone according to plan for your Group N win.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, to think 10 days ago the car, no other team existed, I mean, it just speaks volume for everybody involved.
Well done, Richard. Your first international win. How does that feel?
Oh, it feels very good. Hopefully it bodes well for the rest of the year.
Now, you've had a very, very smooth run. You must have had some problems on this very tough event.
Not really. We've had the air vent on the roof flaps open every now and then. That's about it. We've had really, really good clean run. It's a tribute to the team who put the car together so well.
So Richard Burns wins his first international rally by 3.5 minutes. Second, his teammate Alistair McRae, a staggering 20 minutes, covers the top 8 places. In the Group N showroom category, Gwyndaf Evans storming home nearly 19 minutes ahead of Brendan Creeley's Honda. In the Formula 2 category, David Llewellyn in the Vauxhall Astra takes the expected honours. And in the Lombard Junior Challenge, Brendan Creeley came home 3 minutes ahead of Ian Scott's Vauxhall Nova.
Ladies and gentlemen, the winners of the Vauxhall.
So Richard Burns, the first winner of the Mobil 1 Top Gear Series in his Subaru. A victory celebrated in the traditional style. But can he repeat it at the next event, the Pirelli International in Cumbria?
Junction, 90 right.
You've all enjoyed our in-car footage. Well, at the end of each round on this video, we'll show you more of the best in-car action.
And hairpin left. Easy left long. To junction 60 right. Easy right. flat left long to 60 right, junction 90 right. Looks straight. Looks to keep going flat right to junction, hairpin right. Flat right.
K right, junction 90 left square. Easy right, medium left. Nothing like it. K left. Medium right. Fast left. Into long fast right. 100. Easy right. Fast right into fast left. 100, easy left, into long easy right. 100. Medium right, long. Into easy left. Into medium right.
50, coming square, K left, and then caution, crest. Sort of goes left over a crest. So, and K left. 120, hairpin left, comes up quickly, just after a left. Easy right minus into caution, square right. Just easy minuses at the moment. An easy left minus, into medium right plus, into medium left plus, 50, K right plus, K right plus, K up, maybe bad ruts, and long K left tightens quite badly.
Carlisle, gateway to Scotland and host to the second round of the 1993 Mobil 1 Top Gear British Rally Championship. The Pirelli International always a stern test for drivers. Ford's Malcolm Wilson had his own early test, but this meter maid wasn't handing out tickets to the Cumbrian driver. On this occasion, all she was after was an autograph for her grandson. Malcolm duly obliged, just the ticket really. So far in this championship, it's Richard Burns leading from teammate Alistair McRae. Gwyndaf Evans heads the Group N cars. Malcolm Wilson is in 5th position in his Ford Escort Cosworth. David Llewellyn leading the two-wheel drive cars. In Wales, Malcolm Wilson had more mechanical problems than he'd care to remember. With Kielder in prospect, had those problems been resolved?
We spent a day testing prior to this event up in Kielder last week, and we're very happy with the results that we found, but you know, anything can happen, you just never know, but I mean, hopefully all the little problems that we had, we've got them ironed out.
You're in this Group N category. With a driver of your calibre and experience, is that a disappointment at all?
I'm just glad to get back here rallying, to be honest, and with the full programme in front, I'm delighted. And for sure, I mean, it's still quick enough to be exciting, so I don't mind.
So, I mean, are there financial constraints that make you go into Group N?
Yes, that was the main thing. I mean, there simply wasn't enough budget this year to go to Group A, but hopefully, if we can keep on having results like the last one, we can build on it and maybe move up to Group A next year, but, you know, it's still early days.
On this event, it's although there's only 4 stages today and another 4 stages tomorrow, it's going to be who's relatively quick, no punches, and keeping it in the middle of the road. You know, you just have to slide into a ditch for 30 seconds, and I reckon that'll be it. You know, you'll have lost that much time. So it's just been a clean run and no punches. I think that's the main thing.
Hi, Richard. So a textbook run on the very first event. What are we going to see here now?
Well, we're just going to go at it with the same sort of approach as the last time. Not worried too much about Malcolm because obviously it's his home patch and we're here to get a good finish and get some good championship points.
And so to day 1 of the Pirelli International. 4 stages in all, 58 stage miles in Britain's tough, uncompromising border country.
The first car then to get the 1993 Pirelli International Rally underway is Malcolm Wilson. Away he goes.
Local hero Malcolm Wilson had the honour of leading the 58-strong field away. He is, of course, as familiar with the glorious scenery of Northumberland as with the fearsome challenge of Kershock Forest. His Michelin pilot-sponsored, Cosworth-powered escort was soon setting the pace. It took him only 2 stages to claim a half-minute lead. And that's a second a mile over 32 stage miles. What a performance.
Fast, right, and easy left. Long easy left and clear right. Clear out fast.
Richard Burns, winner of the championship's first round, was second on both stages, steadily keeping the Subaru away from the ditches and the log piles. Alistair McRae was being supported by most of his famous family, back from watching Colin on the safari. But Alistair wasn't as tidy as usual. A brush with an unforgiving log left his Subaru bumper in the middle of the track. Happily, it was removed by a different type of chopper, the Top Gear helicopter. All part of the service.
Robbie Head made a disappointing start in his Group N escort. He was only 12th fastest on the opening stage after a puncture. For him, it was a case of so far, so bad. Group N leader was Gwyndaf Evans, his Vector escort building up a good lead over his rivals.
Into 4 left, 150. 4 left, 150. It's a long 9 left. Steady up now.
Hard on his heels, though, was Dougie Watson-Clark, another driver in a Ford Escort Cosworth. Last year, he was forced to retire. He was hoping for better things this time. A battling start by the young Yorkshireman Johnny Milner, but his Audi still looked distinctly short of power. In the Formula 2 section, David Llewellyn was determined to repeat his home event victory.
Easy left. Into fast right.
He started well enough, but on stage 2 he hit problems that cost him a lot of time. Stephen Finlay came third in Wales and surprised everyone. Here he made a slowish start in his Ford Escort Cosworth. But by stage 2 he was starting to get the feel of his new car. Again, he would be the dark horse of the event. Rob Barry failed to finish in Wales. Here he started cautiously, determined to make the finish this time.
Sweden's Thomas Abrahamsson drove into a top 10 place before retiring on the third stage. That's 2 more than in Wales. Chris Birkbeck found 13 a lucky number, sharing the fastest Formula 2 times on the first 2 stages with Peugeot's Paul Franklin. Steve Bennett's 205 had lost its showroom shine following a major mishap on the very first corner of the first stage. He gave up at the end of the first day. There was also an early bath for Dave Charlton, winner of his class on the first round, but forced out this time with gearbox failure at the end of the first stage. Steve Cotton also failed to make it out of Kershaw.
The problem is, Steve?
I don't really. It's leaking oil from somewhere. It's obviously either cracked the sump from the impact and it's knocked the sump guard up against the sump.
So it's an oil problem, not a water problem, yeah?
Yeah, it's just engine oil. It's actually running out. So
is that it?
Looks like it, unfortunately.
The major talking point at servicing was Alistair McRae's prang, the back of his Subaru badly out of shape and the suspension also damaged, but all in a day's work for the Scotsman.
I misread a crest. I thought the crest was a lot quicker than it was. Come over the crest, locked up, back on the power, but we just clipped a pile of logs with the back wheel. So it's bent the back wheel and damaged the suspension, so see what they can do just now.
Did you lose much time there?
We've probably lost about 40 seconds, I'm not quite sure. We just need to go and check just now.
There was time too for another luckless driver, David Llewellyn, to tell his hard luck story. His problems were serious and lost him a lot of time.
I lost the brakes just 1 mile into that stage.
What, total loss of brakes?
Total loss of brakes, yeah, nothing at all. Broke a rear pipe off and all the fluid came out, and that was it, no brakes at all. You know, I just had to go very steady and use the gears to slow down, and so we lost quite a lot of time going through there. But it just came gradually, so we just drove through like a Sunday run and was glad to see the finish.
For rally leader Malcolm Wilson, there was just time for a speedy tyre change before the Harwood stage. He was 30 seconds ahead of Burns. The local landscape, though, was hardly hospitable.
The last stage was quite tricky. There a lot of loose stone has just been put on to build the road up, and of course the car's moving around quite a lot. It's a little bit tricky on the last ones. A few places where you just had to be a little bit careful, you know. Otherwise, you just slide off into the ditches very easy.
The weather across Cumbria was changing for the better. Rally enthusiasts, plus the odd rallying dog, had eyes only for Malcolm Wilson, the rally leader. Perhaps it was the local knowledge, but Wilson was flying, extending his lead through Harwood Forest. Alistair McRae was second fastest here, the Subaru, with the exception perhaps of its dented rear, looking in good shape. Richard Burns was not having things all his own way. The winner in Wales had lost time. Mechanical problems were beginning to affect his driving.
150, junction 90, right.
A radio call for help was quickly answered. No one should ever undervalue the contribution made by the service crews in this championship.
It's the bearings gone.
It's tight.
There was no panic. For once, time was on the side of the mechanical fixers.
Well, we have a service allowance of about 15 minutes here, and then we would have 15 minutes of penalty-free lateness before we penalise over and above that if we needed to use it.
Everybody seems all very calm and collected.
Yeah, no drama, we'll get it done and get to the next stage in plenty of time.
Stage 4, the 11-mile Churdenhead test. Under worm's eye view of the still dominant Malcolm Wilson, he would finish the day a full minute ahead of the field, fastest on all 4 stages.
Very quick for 400.
But Burns wasn't hanging about in second place.
With flat right and over the crest, fast left, just past the quarry entrance here. Over the crest, fast left. 100.
The young Subaru star was 40 seconds ahead of Alistair McRae when the cars returned to Carlisle. Ulsterman Stephen Finlay was lying a forceful fifth in a higher car with a difference, Malcolm Wilson's other escort.
Up to 7 left long.
Gwyndaf Evans was again leading Group N in the Vector Escort, despite a grumbling gearbox. But he nearly bumped into more serious problems here.
Oh. Well done.
Well done indeed. A lucky escape.
Dougie Watson-Clark has local knowledge. Perhaps he knew a shortcut here, but thought better of it. Robbie Head was visibly growing in confidence and starting to make an impression on the Group N leaderboard. No such luck for David Llewellyn, who hit a rock at the start of stage 4 and broke the suspension on his Astra. He lost time and places as Milner charged past him. It meant Llewellyn's rally was over. So Chris Birkbeck took over the lead in his old-style Astra. Quite a performance, this, after a 2-year layoff. Rob Barry was slowly moving up the leaderboard, although he still doesn't like blind rallies where pace notes can't be used. On to stage 4, and one Paul Dias from Staffordshire will certainly remember in his Sierra. Alistair McRae's Subaru was following him. As Dias pulled over, he slid into a ditch and lost 7 minutes. Brendan Creeley was once more leading the Lombard Junior Challengers. And Dick Archer had built up a 6-minute lead in his class. Quite an achievement for a registered disabled driver with no fingers on either hand to help him grip the wheel. Richard Moore in the Nova led his class. Some neat driving here from the youngster. Another Nova, this one driven by Jeff Stewart, also led its class at the halfway mark. As the cars returned to Carlisle, rally leader Malcolm Wilson might have been arranging a victory party. How did he rate his performance so far?
I haven't been taking any big risks as such at all. I mean, once we realised that we had sort of the measure of the situation after the first stage this morning, yeah, I mean, I've been driving quickly, but I haven't been taking any undue risks at all, anything like that.
The Pirelli Rally had grown into a 2-day event for the first time. There were many of the stars who would soon wish it hadn't. There were 4 more exceptionally long stages, including an awesome run through 23 miles of punishing Pundershaw. And to add to the drivers' difficulties, Saturday's sun had given way to wet and slippery surfaces. Second days of this championship seemed to be jinxed. Malcolm Wilson's luck and his lead vanished with the sunshine. Was it the puddles that caused his electrical problems? Richard Burns probably couldn't believe his good fortune as he caught and passed a very sick Ford.
So easy, maybe fast, left, and long, easy right, and flat.
By the time Malcolm was escorted into the service area, at the end of Shepherd Shield's demanding 14 miles, it was far too late. His hopes of a first championship victory for the new car had gone.
The alternator went down. I don't know whether it took in some water or something like that on the stage in one of the things, and it damaged the inside of the alternator. So it wouldn't even run. It was just coughing and banging, and managed to get out the stage, but obviously we've lost about 5 minutes.
With Wilson in trouble, it was on the Pundershaw stage that the Subaru youngsters came into their own. Burns set fastest stage time here with some flat-out driving.
Flat right.
It was here too that Burns capitalised on his good fortune. He hit a post, but it kept him on the straight and narrow. Teammate Alistair McRae didn't find Pundershaw so accommodating. He ended up in one of Kielder's infamous ditches. Gwyndaf Evans kept pushing hard and was lucky to find an open bend for his error of judgment. Stephen Findlay was now in second spot and clearly getting the hang of his left-hand drive Escort. Malcolm Wilson was now desperate to eat up some of his lost time, even overtaking teammate Robbie Head. The pair lay in 5th and 6th places at the end of stage 6. Dougie Watson-Clark was up to 4th spot, so 5 Escorts occupied the top 6 places. Johnny Milner was keeping the Audi on the road and up into 7th spot. Rob Barry, managing director of his own company, was making his own executive decisions, 8th now and driving well. Brendan Creeley was still leading the Lombard Junior category, but lost out in this battle with the improving Kevin Curran.
Sunday's first stage was not kind to Cheshire's Ian Scott. At least he's Nova found a soft landing ground. Get out of that. Billingham's Peter Stevenson was having a good day, moving into the top 10. This wasn't the weather to find yourself without wipers, as Dick Archer discovered when he tried to overtake another car. He'd been leading the N3 class, but his rally ended in a Pundershaw ditch. Gwyndaf Evans hadn't enjoyed his drive through Pundershaw either.
The car was handling really bad all through it. It's the rear arm that's bent. Obviously these rear arms weren't designed, they're standard components as you can fit in Group N. They're not really designed to do 24 miles in Kielder, but the boys now are changing it, and hopefully we'll be okay from now to the end.
Going into these long stages and not coming out does seem to happen quite a lot in Kielder, doesn't it?
It certainly seems that way. There certainly seem to be some of the top runners seem to be sort of falling by the wayside. We seem to have passed car after car after car, so if the event runs for about another 5 days, we might win.
The Subaru camp was obviously happy to have given youth its chance.
Well, I think, we've got a policy inside the company of not just employing young drivers, but employing young engineers, young personnel throughout the business, and we very heavily into the training programs around people and motivation, and I think young drivers actually help in that whole scenario.
You would hope when you come back round facing the same bit again.
I don't remember that. Yeah, they're two very mature young fellas. They might be only 22 years old, but they're actually got very mature heads on their shoulders, and this is a very good proving ground. The events aren't particularly long. You're in touch with them all the time. You can see them all the time, so it's not such a big problem. We've built a young team of people around them. They're not the traditional team that we used for the World Championship, not the management and the engineering side, most certainly. And it's a way of developing new young talent in our business to try and spread the load.
So another fine performance from one of Mr. Richard's Subaru youngsters, Richard Burns maintaining his lead over the final stages. There was even time to wave to the crowd. Malcolm Wilson, though, was still fighting tenaciously, setting an amazing 6 fastest times on 8 stages. Gwyndaf Evans was still looking good and leading the Group N cars.
And 8 rights, and 8 rights.
Stephen Findlay hit a rock on the Brumilin stage. It meant the end of the road for him, but it allowed Paul Dias to move up another place. So So Irish eyes not smiling on this occasion.
Nothing, it seemed, could stop Richard Burns achieving a second successive victory and stretching his championship lead to 14 points.
And each way after the junction, and right minus.
His title lead would be even greater had it not been for some divine intervention by the Ford camp. Malcolm Wilson was driving as hard as he could, but realistically had no chance of overhauling Gwyndaf Evans for second place and 21 valuable points. But miracles sometimes happen in works cars. Just 400 yards from the end of the final stage, Gwyndaf Evans obligingly and dramatically parked his car.
22 seconds as he goes by. No, you don't have to count that far. He's got to be 1 minute and 22 off.
He waited until his senior colleague swept gratefully by into second place. There was less strategic success for another Cumbrian, Dougie Watson-Clark, a very respectable fourth. And Robbie Head lost fifth place to a blown head gasket. Rob Barry finished a fine sixth. Who needs wipers anyway? Chris Birkbeck was 7th overall, despite a 2-year layoff, and he won the Formula 2 division too. Peter Stevenson was 8th in his Sierra, just ahead of veteran Brian Bell, 9th in his Escort. And Kevin Curran made it 7 Fords in the top 10.
Brendan Creeley collected junior honours and very nearly our cameraman. Thanks, Brendan. Roger Davis had a class win, as in Wales, in his Peugeot. Richard Moore didn't catch the leaders, but won his class in his Nova. And Steve Wedgbury took his Nova to a Class A win. So victory for Richard Burns by nearly 6 minutes from Malcolm Wilson, who keeps his championship hopes alive at the expense of Gwyndaf Evans, who came third. Rob Barry, the tarmac specialist, came in a creditable 6th. But Group End victory for Gwyndaf for the second rally in succession. A good recovery too from Paul Dias in 5th spot. Chris Birkbeck's Astra led home the Formula 2 cars, with Brendan Creeley 6 minutes behind him. But success for Creeley again in the Lombard Junior section, 9.5 minutes ahead of Scott Bradshaw's Nova. So the sweet taste of victory again for Richard Burns in the Subaru. He'll be hoping to make it a hat-trick of wins in the next round, the Perth Scottish Rally in June. It's a doddle, this rallying, isn't it?
The thing is, from the outside, it looks all a bit simple because we won this one by about 4 minutes or something, but it's probably been one of the toughest rallies I've done because up to about a couple of hours ago, we were certainly very much under pressure. But fortunately, it's come right.
Yes! Tightens to 3 left and 1 right, and then back 3 left to 2 right, straight 300, 1 minus right, opens and then 3 right, straight 150, comes left, will come left, honest, and into a 1-2 left, over junction, 1 right, straight 100, 3 left.
Easy left and right over the bridge, little bump, and junction 90 right. And opens, easy right plus, and just easy king, and junction agent left minus. 100 to a key left. 100 junction, key left. 120. Medium right plus. 500. Keep going to the trees. Long medium left minus. And medium right minus. And opens the easy right and tightens. And long left. And tightens to medium plus. 100 junction 90 right.
Tighter, sorry. No, 7 right. Into 8 left. She's trying to 8 left, sharp. 50 to 6 right. And 7 left. Right. 7 left. Into tight 9 right. Tight 9 right. And square left. Square left. 50 goes 6 left, 2, 6 left, 6 right, into 8 left sharp. Sweeps 6 right into 8 left sharp. It is 8 left sharp. Do 7 right and 8 left. Okay. 7 right and 8 left. 8 left. 50, tight 9 right.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Typically Highland welcome for the drivers taking part in the third round of the Mobil 1 Top Gear British Rally Championship, and the good people of Perth parting with their cash to see if young Richard Burns from Reading could tighten his stranglehold on this championship. 3 days in the forests of Scotland, a formidable driving challenge. After 2 rallies so far, Richard Burns in his Subaru, the clear championship leader. Following him, Malcolm Wilson and then Gwyndaf Evans in their Ford Escort Cosworths. In 4th spot, Kevin Curran. In the Group N category, Gwyndaf Evans is the leader, Brendan Creeley second, and Roger Davis in his Peugeot 205 in 3rd spot.
Malcolm, you've had numerous problems on the first 2 rounds. Has this put you under a lot of pressure for this one?
Yeah, I think it has. I mean, I think it's fair to say that in many ways that I am under a lot of pressure, probably as a driver, and also, you know, the fact that it's all my team and everything like that. But we're confident.
I think actually the pressure's got less because at the beginning of the year we were an unknown quantity. Now people do know what we can do. We don't actually have to prove anything anymore.
Brendan, you're leading Formula 2 and the junior category. What's the pressure like?
Well, it's obviously this is only our Group N showroom car. We're not too pressured. We just want to win the junior series. If we win the Formula 2, it's a bonus.
Robbie, a lot of problems so far this season. Can you salvage anything on this event?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be really uphill work from now on. We really have to hope that Gwyndaf has a problem and some bad luck, as we've had. So.
You talk about showroom cars. This really is, isn't it? It looks it all the way through.
Yeah, this is just a shopping car with a roll cage in it, and it's a leading Formula 2 in the British Championship.
Anyway, good shopping.
Okay, thank you.
The rally opened with 2 stages at Scotland's popular Knockhill racetrack. Cars covered 2 laps on each stage and set off at 30-second intervals. There were times when it looked more like a full-blooded race than a rally. The grounds of Scone Palace were new to the Scottish and served as a warmer-upper for the real event. You can't win a rally on these stages, but you could easily lose it. Richard Burns said Malcolm Wilson's wild antics were because of an error in his pace notes, but to the uninitiated, Burns looked to be making just the same mistakes. Alistair McRae, here with David Senior on the notes, was determined to do well on his home event and hoped to be the third McRae to win the Scottish.
Easy left through gate. Into easy right minus.
David Llewellyn is getting more accustomed to the Astra with every rally and was the fastest two-wheel drive car here. Also improving with every rally is the new Audi S2 of Johnny Milner and David Orrick.
Right 5 into left 5. Twisty 200.
Steve Bennett did exactly what he did on the Pirelli International Rally. Went off at the first real bend of the rally.
10 seconds.
Racing driver Tiffany Dell discovered the joys of rallying on the very first stage.
There's nothing there.
Fuel starvation problems put him 40 minutes behind everyone else.
Oh, it's going, it's half a bar and it's no bar. Now what do we do? Go home?
Day 2 would take the drivers through 14 stages and 83 stage miles, some breathtaking scenery on the way to Scotland's west coast, and 2 trips around the rugged Glenshellish stage. The tranquil setting of Loch Achray, a contrast to the hectic action that awaited the drivers at the start of Day 2. Malcolm Wilson badly needed a good day. In previous rallies, the second day has proved his undoing. He set off at a cracking pace at the start of the first 2.5 mile stage. But on stage 5, again not one of Malcolm's luckier numbers, things started to go wrong. The jinx had struck again, this time serious transmission problems. Leading rival Richard Burns could hardly believe his good fortune. Wilson's car was slowly being pushed out of trouble, a pleasing sight for the Subaru team as they rounded the next bend. Burns positively flew past. Teammate Alistair McRae wasn't too far behind.
Into, keep straight 100, here, medium right minus. On crest, tightens, and medium left plus, and medium right minus, and 2, K left plus, and care, K right on crest, open.
He couldn't believe his eyes either as he too sped past Wilson.
Here.
Wilson wasn't the only casualty on stage 5. Johnny Milner's Audi looking and sounding unhealthy.
Shell Johnny to Shell Mobil 1, Shell Johnny to Shell Mobil 1, over.
Go ahead, Shell Johnny.
We are in the stage with approximately 1 mile to do. We think the turbo has gone, or the boost pressure has gone. Lots of oil out of the back. Water temperature 99, oil temperature 107.
Meanwhile, the Ford mechanics were hard at work repairing Wilson's car, but they didn't have a remedy for his state of mind. Another day of wretched luck.
What went wrong, Malcolm?
I think it's the main shaft in the gearbox, Tony. I just don't know what I've got to do. I really don't. 2 miles into the stage, changed up a gear, no drive. Devastated.
How did you manage to get out to here then?
Spectators, thankfully, I mean, they pushed us all the way. I mean, we wouldn't have been here if it hadn't been for them. Fantastic. I mean, we've lost 20 minutes or so, but at least we're still in the rally. It's one consolation, but I'm afraid it's that elusive win has gone out of the window again.
So it was left to Robbie Head, Malcolm's young teammate in the Group N Escort Cosworth, to uphold the team's honour and hope for better luck than he'd had on the earlier rounds. But when the rally arrived at the famous old Rest and Be Thankful hill climb, first used in 1949 and not included on the Scottish for many years, Head had to give best to the old guard. Gwyndaf Evans scorched up the pothole 2.1 mile hill in 2.1 minutes. Jimmy McRae matched Evans' time exactly, the two sharing fastest time, the old stagers showing the young ones just how it should be done. When you're car number 1 and down in 41st place, you know it's not your day. Once again, Malcolm Wilson's car was in the wars.
70, medium left. M1, Malcolm. Big problem with the steering rack. Just get to the end of the stage.
Someone else who'd be thankful for a rest from problems here, Paul Frankland. Where's the front gone? Where's the bonnet?
We had to take it off. We had the front suspension collapse on last stage, so we're just going through. We just hit a pothole, middle of the road. It didn't go off the road or anything, and it collapsed the strut and it went through the hub. And it came straight up into the bonnet, and we're lucky to be here now, really.
That's Rest and Be Thankful you're going back down it again.
We'll have some different tyres on next time down, I think. We're using a low-profile tyre. It was a little bit too low-profile, I think. Potholes were very deep. Just unlucky.
Colin McRae and Richard Burns are among those to cut their teeth in Peugeots. It seems a pity they move on.
It would obviously be nice to hold on to them, but I think it proves that the Peugeot GTI Challenge works. It's an excellent grounding, and when people progress in that way up through the upper ranks into probably World Championship status with Colin and hopefully in the future with Richard and Robert, then it proves that the system is working. That's the idea of it, to train youngsters, British youngsters, and get them up through the ranks.
Now, Peugeot have announced that they're not going to go ahead with the Formula One programme. Does that release a lot more money which might go into rallying on a world scale again?
On a world scale, possibly. France themselves control that side of it. I'm afraid that I don't get any of French money as much as I'd like to. But I'm sure that there's a 306 lurking over in France somewhere that there's development being done to, although obviously that's not official.
Over the mammoth Glenshelish stage, it was left to the two Subarus to battle it out. Richard Burns, the first through, had a clean run.
Flat left minus on crest, 30, flat crest and flat left, 30, pair, flat left and easy right minus.
No such luck for teammate Alistair McRae. His Subaru in trouble after a split in a wheel rim let all the air out. Effectively, he was driving on 3 wheels for 9 miles. David Llewellyn, the Welsh farmer, was having a trouble-free run in his Astra. Not such a happy day for John Gray. He was lying 5th when engine problems meant him going quick, slow. Glenshelish was hellish too for Johnny Milner in the Audi. Slower cars were impeding his path through the stage, one of the perils of running late on the road. And so to Glen Branter's services, the hub of the rally on day 2, a time for reflection.
Maybe a mile into the long stage, I felt as if the rear offside tyre was going soft. It stayed at its pressure for maybe 3 or 4 miles, but then the tyre just come off the rim. So we had to drive 10 miles with no tyre on, so we've dropped 2.5 minutes. So.
Wouldn't it have been quicker to stop and change it?
No, I don't think it would have been. It would take you maybe 2.5, 3 minutes to change it. It's going now.
Another man with tyre problems, Gwyndaf Evans.
We just ran on the rim for the last 2-3 miles and it's bent the rear arm, so the boys are just changing the rear arm now. But there we are, we've still got a long way to go. We dropped 1.5 minutes, but keep on trying.
A relaxed Richard Burns now had a 2-minute lead over Scotland's ambassador of rallying, Jimmy McRae, and a commanding 3-minute margin over McRae Jr. But 5 times British champion Jimmy McRae wasn't having a trouble-free run. On stage 10 at Galetta, he suffered differential problems and was pushed clear of the stage by Malcolm Wilson.
Malcolm, clear stage 10, no problems.
The pushed becomes the pusher. Leading privateer Paul Dias was enjoying what, for him, was a relatively worry-free run. He was edging towards the top 10. Another privateer, Chris Birkbeck in the L-shape Astra, was doing superbly, up in 7th. Paul Frankland was bouncing back from his earlier suspension problems and holding 9th overall in the small Peugeot 205. And rounding off the top 10, the most enthusiastic amateur of them all, Brian Bell in his Group A Escort. Meanwhile, Jimmy McRae had made it to Glenbranta service area more or less in one piece.
Fairly dramatic, Jim, isn't it?
Yeah, the front diff has exploded in the second last stage there. So we hope if we can get it changed, I think we could still be in. I don't know, it depends how long it'll take to change it.
It's quite a rally, isn't it?
Quite a rally, yes.
Gwyndaf Evans was now in second spot behind Richard Burns. Hot on Gwyndaf's tail, though, was Malcolm Wilson. Wilson had been driving flat out now for some time since his earlier troubles.
130.
He passed his ailing rival Gwyndaf Evans in clouds of dust. Sadly, Gwyndaf was about to crash out of the rally through mechanical problems.
Absolute crest. 80. That left over crest.
Alistair McRae was second fastest on this stage, amazingly 43 seconds behind Wilson.
Hello, what's all this then?
Oh dear, about 3 mile into the first long stage, the second rerun, just came onto a bridge parapet and it had been eaten away by the previous cars and must have just gone down. We did 2 or 3 miles on it, then had to stop and change it. So we lost a lot of time. Some spectators gave us a lift and we put a new one on, and about 100 yards up the road we got a rear puncture. We hadn't got any more spares, so we had to drive the whole of the stage with a rear flat.
As the dust settled on the fast stages around Carron Valley, Richard Burns was continuing his trouble-free run and, more importantly, maintaining his lead. But Wilson was the man setting the times to beat. Now fastest on every single stage, this had brought him up into the top 20.
80. Absolute crest, leftish. 100. Here, easy left. 40.
The Scottish is notoriously rough, particularly for Group N cars with their standard components. But Head didn't let that worry him. He and Jimmy McRae, who knows these stages like the back of his hand, kept trading places, the more experienced Scot holding the overnight category lead. This was the first rally where the pairing of Llewellyn and Grinrod had to use pace notes, and judging by their overnight position of 5th, everything was going according to plan. The only fly in their ointment was the ever-present Chris Birkbeck, less than a minute behind at the end of the day. Last year's Peugeot Challenge winners, Brendan Creeley and Nicky Beach, were well in control of the Lombard Junior Championship, ahead of Cheshire's Ian Scott and Keith Wayne in their 1300cc Nova. Kevin Curran from Welshpool rallies purely for fun, but seems to get the results. He was 12th on the Scottish last year and was now up in 8th place. Brian Bell and Philip Mills were holding a fine 10th place, but they were about to make a rapid exit from the rally on the last stage of the day.
Oh, well done, what a great day, and no problems at all.
No, we just had a puncture at the end of the first stage this morning, and that's it. The car's been absolutely perfect.
I think we're just about the minute in front of Chris Birkbeck, who's the next one in an Astra again. But he's been going quite well over the last few stages and taking a couple of seconds out of us. So we just have to keep an eye on him, because I don't think he's given up by any means.
Just come across Brian Bell in there, upside down. So the gap got very close before going into that last stage there. We were slowly building up time on him, and he's had a good run through the stage, but he's obviously overcooked it. So
will he get out?
They're out the car and everything, but the car's upside down, so they're not going any further now. No. But it brings it home to you what can happen. It's got to be a bit careful with it.
A 100-mile-an-hour crash certainly makes life difficult.
Well, you've made it to service, Brian. Do you think you'll be able to continue tomorrow?
I don't think so. It looks a little bit too bad of a state.
Yeah. What, the handling?
Yes, it's not quite straight on the handling, and I think it would be dangerous to continue. And it's not really roadworthy with the lights and everything.
Day 3 took the rally to the forests north of Perth. 60 stage miles, make or break time for the drivers. The crowds were out in force once again in the Scottish forest for the final day of action. Would the Subaru of young Richard Burns stay in front of his rivals? Burns certainly looked hard to beat. He was flying once again.
2, 1, go.
If there was any danger, it might come from teammate Alistair McRae.
Flat right and medium left. And K right plus. Into medium left plus.
Father Jimmy was still pressing hard. He was in third spot and leading Group N. But fellow Scot and family friend Robbie Head was right on his tail. Meanwhile, David Llewellyn was consolidating his lead in Formula 2. He was 5th now overall. Privateer Chris Birkbeck's Astra was about to become another victim of the rough forest tracks. At an emergency service, the damage is assessed: a broken pickup point and a failed suspension. Welding looked essential, but with no welding gear of their own, they sought help from the Vauxhall team manager John Nixie. With Vauxhall's help, his mechanics toiled to repair the problem. A nice gesture.
Like, how much time have you got? I mean, you're looking a bit anxious now.
Yeah, actually, we need to be away about a minute ago. We've got a 15-mile road section. It's getting very close. We're a bit worried now.
Of course, co-drivers are born worriers. But with the amount of work to do, it's not surprising he and his driver were a bit concerned.
The other side.
Right, they've managed to have the Chris.
Well, I think so. It's all looking a bit hurried round the front there. We're in quite a rush to leave now. There's a wheel just going back on. But we've welded the pickup point. Hopefully it's going to be strong enough.
Here you are, you're off.
Another demonstration of the skills and speed of the rally mechanics, the backroom boys who keep the show on the road. But on this occasion, not for long. On the next stage, the 6-mile Rockety Forest, the welding on the inner track control mounting failed and the Astra dived off the road and out of the rally. A strained thumb was all Chris Birkbeck had to show for one of the best drives of the event. Group N was also to see a drastic change in proceedings as Jimmy McRae's escort experienced terminal problems.
Coming up the fast stretch there, and there's a slight left before a hairpin right. I went to turn into the slight left, and it didn't turn in. I knew there was something wrong with the car. We went off slightly, off the road, but drove back on. But I knew then there was something broken in the car. The bottom ball joint and the TCA broken. I thought I could have got it to the end, but nah, the wheel was coming back and jamming in the wheel arch. So here we are.
Meanwhile, Malcolm Wilson and his unflappable co-driver Brian Thomas were continuing their blitz on the leaderboard. They were now up to 12th.
Flat right 50, care left max, right max 30, medium left. To easy right, and flat left, 20, easy right, and care left max long to care easy right. Past junction opens, flat left, 30, right max, 50, easy left, to late medium right, long of a finish.
Peter Stevenson and Chris Patterson were now in the top 10 with their Sierra. Johnny Milner's Audi was looking hot again, a little too hot perhaps, a small fire on board. Kevin Curran kept up his good form this season to finish in 8th place. Paul Dias, the Aussie from Staffordshire, was top foreign entrant, a respectable 7th. And Paul Franklin slid his Peugeot into 6th spot overall and runner-up in the Formula 2 category. Another fine performance from Brendan Creeley, his Honda 14th overall, but he took his class win and enough points to take the lead in Junior Championship, Formula 2 and Group N. Norfolk's Dick Archer guided his Astra into 19th spot overall and a class win. And Richard Moore finished 20th overall, his second-class win in a row in his Opel Corsa. Meanwhile, the Clitheroe kid, Nick Hutchinson, took his Nova into 12th position.
We've started again. It's misfiring, but we've started.
Last stage turbo boost problems dropped Milner down to 9th, but gave him a grandstand seat.
That was Malcolm just going off, getting past us.
Although he came very close to throwing it all away, Malcolm Wilson inherited Milner's 5th place. David Llewellyn completed a textbook run to take 4th overall and win the Formula 2 section. Robbie Head, having seen off all his Group N opponents, finished a fine 3rd overall, the same position as last year. Alistair McRae had a learning drive after his early time loss, but finished 2nd to teammate and runaway leader of the championship, Richard Burns. He and Robert Reid had again proved that they are seemingly unstoppable in the Mobil 1 Top Gear Rally Championship. It was their biggest win to date, and for Richard, a record, the youngest ever driver to score a hat-trick on the championship.
Yeah, it's brilliant actually. We're exceptionally pleased with the way the car's gone. Everything's gone perfectly, we've had no problems.
So for the record book, the final times look like this. Richard Burns beat his closest rival in another Subaru by 3 minutes, with Malcolm Wilson 10 minutes behind the winner. But Ford could celebrate in Group N, Robbie Head winning by a margin of nearly 6 minutes over Paul Dias. David Llewellyn brought his Vauxhall home in 1st place in the Formula 2 category by a margin of 4 minutes. And in the junior category, Brendan Creeley drove his shopping trolley into 1st place over Ian Scott by a staggering margin of 11 minutes. But for those who witnessed this event, the lasting memory will be the stunning drive of Malcolm Wilson as he clawed his way up the leaderboard from a lowly 41st place on Saturday to 5th on Sunday.
Yeah, we're quite happy. I mean, okay, we haven't got the result that we came for, but we've had 22 fastest times out of the 26 possible. So I think it proves the car and the equipment. So it's just, let's hope that the next one it comes right.
To flat left, easy right. And fast.
4, 3, 2, 1, go. 200, left 5 on crest, 100. Long right 2. Crest 30, right 4. Into left 3, continues over crest. 200. Caution, crest and left 3, narrow gate posts. 250. Caution, keep right on crest 30, right 3 and bridge. Crest 30, right 3 and bridge. 300. Bad mud, left 6. 70. Right 3 on crest, 100. Watch the mud. Crest into right 2 on crest, 150. Right 2 continues over crest. Crest 30, long left 3. Narrows over crest, keep right and right 3. 50, left 3, 30, right 2 tightens, right 3 on crest, 70, caution left 9. And long right 2. And left 3 into right 3, 50. Right 3 on crest into long left 8 gate posts. 150 over crest, hairpin right. 70. Left 3 continues over crest to stop, well done.
Easy right and left minus, care. 70, caution. Flat left tightens to medium left plus. That's caution, flat left tightens to medium left plus. 30. Medium right and long K left.
To cut that right over crest, to bridge medium right long. Okay, medium left continues. 20. Turn easy left long. 100. Crest, flat right long. Flat left long over crest. Flat right long. 100. Care, flat left long, 20. Flat crest and flat left, 20. Flat right, flat left long, 30. Flat left and right max long over bump, 100. Easy, left opens, crest, hairpin left. Flat right long continues. Easy right to fast left.
For this event, we've moved from the forest to the tarmac, and it gives the opportunity for the championship to be decided.
If we finish in front of Alistair and just one place behind Malcolm, then that's the championship won.
Round, 79 starters turned up in Belfast, ready to tackle 185 stage miles over the bumpiest roads the province could provide. Some drivers were in a reminiscing mood.
Well, the last time I was here, my memory of the rally was it was very smooth, quite fast, and a real driver's rally. But this year, they have used a lot tighter stages, a lot twistier, and there's quite a lot of bad bumps.
I'll be surprised if Richard Burns, and in fact Alistair can come here with those cars first time and really set the pace. But I'm certainly not ruling out that they're going to present a strong challenge.
We've been here 3 years and we've finished once, so it's not my most favourite event, but hopefully we can change that this year.
I think the retirement rate will be quite high on this rally, especially if the weather is a bit changeable as well. Very rough, very bumpy, very fast stages, and I think it'll be very hard on the car and the crew, because obviously we've had to make pace notes at slow speed, and it's all that bit different when you're going a lot quicker.
The championship is in a very interesting position now. I mean, what advice would you give to young Richard Burns?
Go like hell.
After 3 rounds of the championship, the 22-year-old Subaru driver, Richard Burns, held a commanding lead, ahead of Malcolm Wilson's Escort Cosworth and Alistair McRae in the second Subaru Legacy. But all this could change. The scoring system this year means higher scores can be obtained on the last 2 events.
5, 4, 3.
Malcolm Wilson's Escort headed the cars into the competitive sections of the route west of Belfast. The first day would give drivers 8 special stages, totalling 64 miles, before returning to Belfast for the briefest of brief overnight stops.
Malcolm Wilson, amazingly still without a championship win this season, couldn't have shown more determined or devastating form.
30, medium right, flat left. 150, jumps, flat right, 30.
It took him only 2 stages to build up a 10-second lead.
Fast left.
That young spectator certainly knew his heroes. but Bertie Fisher, chasing the Dunlop Tarmac title, was off the pace in the early stages. Kenny McKinstry was almost off the road, finding his Subaru a handful here, but he was still second fastest on both the opening stages. As ever, co-drivers' clinical instructions were vital. This is Robert Reed, hoping to help championship leader Richard Burns clinch the British title on his very first Ulster Rally.
From hairpin to right, don't handbrake.
They both knew that just a second place on this event would be sufficient to make 22-year-old Richard the youngest ever champion. His teammate, Alistair McRae, has had far more Ulster experience, but not always the happiest of memories. He's retired twice in this event, amazingly at the very same spot. He would be apprehensive until he got past it safely this time. One past winner here is David Llewellyn. This year his main aim was to keep his Formula 2 Vauxhall well ahead of his rivals. This driver's eye view from Robbie Head's Group N Escort shows just how narrow and tight the Ulster event really is. Not a yard's leniency for errors. Yes, he's right again. That boy should be a commentator. This is Austin McHale, and the Dubliner had put his Toyota into third spot. No one had told Ulsterman Stephen Finlay that the Sierra is supposed to be past its sell-by date rally-wise. Second overall, he outgunned the latest cars, including Gwyndaf Evans, who was 8th. Johnny Milner had successfully taken his Audi to the Sligo rally to get into tarmac trim, and he finished 3rd there. Mark Higgins lost a plug in 4 minutes on the first stage. He didn't do his chances much good here either. Brendan Creeley was hoping to show his home fans the form that has made him leader of Group N and Formula 2. Once again, Steve Bennett's Peugeot seemed to have a mind of its own. But there were plenty of willing helpers to push him back into the running. Could it be? Surely not. That old familiar Tony Pond, driving as sweetly as his sponsor Syrup, with no sticky moments.
Right 160. Bumpy right 3, late 100.
At the service area at Granville, it looked as though someone had a major lifting job to perform. The area was congested and full of all manner of vehicles and quite chaotic. We've heard of roadside service, but this is going a bit far. Everyone had to keep their eyes open. Oh, and their ears too. Some of the cars were already suffering.
We have a problem with the gearbox. It's jumping out of 6th gear for on both stages, and sometimes, okay, you can hold the car in 6th gear, but every now and again you'll forget and you'll put your two hands on the steering wheel where you should have them, and you know, you brake and it comes out of gear.
Paul, I see you're driving with a bit of a handicap on this one.
Yes, Tony, we are. I cracked a bone in my wrist a few weeks ago, and it's not fully healed up yet. It's very sore, but it is holding up. But obviously the stages are very bumpy and rough, and it's very difficult to hold onto the car. But, you know, it's doing okay.
By Jove, that's service, isn't it?
We get spoiled by the SPG lot.
So how's the Group N car coping with all these bumps?
So far, so good. Yeah, we're okay. We're trying to take it gentle on the bumps, but inevitably we hit one or two unexpectedly.
Of course, you won the Ulster Rally 3 or 4 years ago. It must be one of your favourite events, is it?
It's been good to me in the past, and I hope it'll be good to me again.
You're going to run over me?
Yeah,
Bad bump 400.
The third stage, Parkenur near Dungannon, dramatically changed the fortunes of half a dozen of the hopefuls. Runaway leader Malcolm Wilson didn't seem to mind the bumps, or this crossroad.
Right entry over bump, left max. 30, easy left.
Stephen Finlay was OK, battling with Bertie Fisher for second place. Kenny McKinstry took the circular route again in his Subaru. Richard Burns was down in 7th place after a puncture on the second stage, but at least he completed this critical 11-mile test.
Easy left plus, here tightens after 50 to medium left. And right minus 100.
Johnny Milner didn't. His Audi broke a drive shaft after a very heavy landing. Robbie Head made a more spectacular exit. Remember that crossroads?
No!
Happily, both he and his co-driver Campbell Roy were unhurt, but the car was well and truly stuck. Brendan Creeley's Honda Civic was heading home ingloriously after a meeting with 2 trees and a fence.
Malcolm Wilson and Brian Thomas in the Escort Cosworth were extending their lead with every stage. Teamwork at its best.
Flat left over crest, 130. Crest to deck care, medium right. 90. Care easy left. 40. Flat crest rightish, 40. Flat left, 80.
There's been a lot of talk about the bumpy roads on this rally, but Stephen Finlay was taking them in his stride to hold second place. Austin McHale, in his ex-Carlos Sainz Toyota, despite this interesting line, was holding a strong third place. The leading Subaru on this occasion was in the hands of Bertie Fisher. He was within seconds of McHale, the 2 drivers going for the Irish Championship. On previous Ulsters, Kenny McKinstry has never got this far, but he was happily holding 5th place ahead of the works Subaru of Alistair McRae and David Senior. In 7th and upholding the Formula 2 honours was David Llewellyn in the works Astra. Hotly pursued by his main rival Paul Frankland in 9th place, damaged wrist and all. In the Group N section, local man James Leckie found himself in the lead in his Escort, just ahead of Campbell Adams in his Sierra Cosworth, one of the few Englishmen who competes regularly in Ireland. Gwyndaf Evans had been relegated to 3rd in this section after turbo problems. After one evil bump, a front strut had pushed its way through Mark Higgins' bonnet, making life rather interesting for the young Manxman. Steve Bennett was still working hard to hold on to his car on this big dipper of a road. When you walk quietly down a lane 365 days a year without any surprises, you don't expect this. But then again, neither did Richard Moore in his Opel Corsa.
At the Cookstown service halt, the championship leaders' crew waited, looked more and more pensive, and began to fear the worst. Sadly, Alistair McRae confirmed their fears. Richard Burns' rally had ended on stage 5.
Right minus and left.
This is how it happened. The Subaru hit a slippery tarmac patch, the wheels locked, and his car and his hopes sank slowly into the peat bog. The championship was wide open.
It livens it up for sure. Richard's still got a fair good chance. He's got a good crack at it on the Isle of Man. Basically, if Malcolm wins here, Richard's got to finish in the top 4. If Alistair wins here, the battle's between Alistair and Richard.
Malcolm Wilson certainly looked favourite to win here. As the stragglers were servicing in Cookstown, he was on his way to Belfast with a lead of more than a minute.
crest, left 2, twisty 100. Care, crest, left 4, right 5 down.
It's very three-dimensional. The roads are up, down, a lot of things you can't see are unsighted. You practice or recce at 30 miles an hour and you hit the stuff at 60, 70 miles an hour in this, and they're probably hitting it at 120 mile an hour. You know, it's an entirely different story when you go quick. And you've got notes which tell you where the road goes, but every now and then it launches you up in the air. You're becoming very busy.
I'm driving with caution, and I'm just being very careful about it. And I've seen so many of these guys going off, and I'm just trying to get around here.
There was a short service point near Lurgan before the survivors headed off back to Belfast. Was the leader and his young son Matthew in confident mood?
There's other rallies in the early part of this year that's gone according to plan on the first half. But obviously the first stage out has been our bogey stage. So we'll just have to see what happens in the morning.
We're leading Formula 2, and we're pleased that we're beating the Group N cars, which have had the edge on us on gravel. So we're very, very happy.
James, you're leading Group N. Is that a surprise?
Yeah, it's a surprise for me and others. There's been quite a few Group N casualties tonight, very surprisingly, but a lot of them. So it's left 3 or 4 of us battling it out.
Behind Wilson at the head of the field, there'd been constant battles for second place. Bertie Fisher playing a prominent role. His gearbox problems must surely have lost him some time.
Well, you know, it's always very, very hard to quantify how much time you lose with something like that, but certainly when the co-driver can tell me the car's out of gear before I realise it myself, it must be losing time.
Privateers like Paul Armstrong from Merseyside are the backbone of rallying. His Golf GTI had been given a severe pounding. Wasn't it all too much?
No, I think it's a lot of good fun, actually. It's just that I could do with some harder springs, but being a private entry with, you know, no sponsorship, you know, you buy a pair of struts at £400, you know, you can't have a spare pair of struts, and you can't have spare this. You know, you buy 8 wheels and there's another £500 or £600. You just, you know, you can't afford to do it. Whereas the big teams can, you know, they come in and change everything. We just have to keep it going.
Day 2, and 11 stages totalling 121 narrow miles awaited the 64 survivors. It didn't take long for the Ulster Rally to provide a pleasant surprise for Malcolm Wilson.
Right max long, 30 over crest, left max and medium right, to flat left, to easy left, danger, fast right, and flat left.
For once, he survived the first stage of a second day without a mishap. Was his luck about to change? Bertie Fisher was instantly in flying form, moving up to second spot. Austin McHale's Toyota was still mixing it with the Fords and the Subarus in third place. Kenny McKinstry was looking for his first Ulster finish since 1984. James Leckie was sponsored by the event supporter Village Homes, and he was rewarding them by maintaining the Group N lead in his escort. Stephen Finlay in that Sierra. He showed the right way to take this tight left corner. Others weren't quite so accurate. Even Barry McGuigan was on the ropes.
I feel like I've done 15 rounds, you know. After three minutes, I want to hear a bell and get a drink, but that last one went on for 17 and a half minutes. Come on.
The Early morning rain had stopped and it was time for breakfast at a major service point which completely transformed the peaceful market town of Auchnacloy. In fact, the rally would visit the town twice, giving plenty of time to compare notes and, more importantly, fettle the cars, including that of the very rapid Stephen Finlay.
A few modifications at the front, Stephen.
Modifications, all right. And that last one, we're going to 6 left. And we're going a bit hard, and the tyres was off a bit, and just slid on through the hedge.
Did that lose lots of time for you?
I was able to lost a lot of time in that one, time a bit out and on the road again. So.
Another victim of the wet road, Steve. What happened there?
Well, it wasn't so much that, Tony. We had a puncture earlier on in the stage, and we were actually driving on the flats, and it damaged the brake pipe and actually tore the brake pipe off. So we actually had no brakes, and we came to the flying finish, and 2 cars were parked in the flying finish, so we had to take avoiding action by throwing the car into the ditch to save knocking any marshals or damaging anybody else's car.
A lot of people up at the front who got lots and lots of tyres to go for and crews going into the roads to test the conditions. Do you have any of that?
Unfortunately not. I've got a budget of 8 tyres for the event. We can't afford a management car, and we're actually sleeping in the awning on the side of the van. So we haven't even got a hotel.
So you didn't sleep in a proper bed last night?
No, we got the awning out and in the trailer park, and got a few mats down and got the microwave going, and had fish and chips.
One top driver was somewhat relieved to see the back of stage 11.
We're more cautious through there than we've been in any other stage of the rally. We've retired there twice in the last 2 years, so we didn't want to do it again.
Have you spoken to Richard at all?
Yeah, I haven't spoken to him, but he's out doing weather crew for us this morning, so I think he's in the next stage, and he'll give us an idea of what the weather's like in the stage, so as we can try and make the correct tyre choice.
The weather was atrocious. The right tyre choice was vital. Malcolm Wilson was obviously happy with his Michelins. He was fastest for the 12th stage in succession.
Very late, fast right of a crest. 40. Fast right.
Richard Burns had certainly given Alistair McRae the right advice. The young Scot was only 2 seconds slower than Malcolm here at Drummond. James Leckie was not going to take the Group N honours. This full frontal remodelling led to a disappointing retirement, but his departure promoted fellow countryman Robin Phillips into a top 10 spot. Austin McHale's rally came to a fierce halt. He and co-driver Dermot O'Gorman were unhurt, but it could have been a very serious incident indeed.
About halfway through the last stage, coming up over a crest, brake pedal broke at the cylinder. We were lucky enough that we got the car slowed slightly with the handbrake. With the 4-wheel drive system, it tends to lock the front wheels as well. But we obviously went off and we've done a lot of damage. But we're happy enough to be here. We're grateful in a way, because coming down into square lefts or rights where there'll be a lot of spectators of that around at 130 mile an hour plus, and that to happen, it doesn't bear to think what damage could have been.
The usual unpredictable Ulster Rally weather had again played its part. Among those to make a wrong tyre choice early on was Bertie Fisher, but he still managed 2nd place overall, ahead of Alistair McRae. Kenny McKinstry finished 4th, despite losing a minute with his wrong tyre choice. But it was a textbook run for David Llewellyn and Ian Grindrod, 5th overall and 1st in Formula 2. Behind them, Gwyndaf Evans and Howard Davies climbed back to win Group N. Despite his wrist injury, Paul Franklin with Mary Fullerton finished 7th. Local men Robin Phillips and George Miller made 8th place and 2nd in Group N, ahead of Campbell Adams and Michael Reed, who Sierra showed signs of their visit to a field. The most amazing drive of the rally, though, was that of Tony Pond. The little Metro, all 110 brake horsepower of it, made 10th overall with driving like this.
Big jump crest. Right 1 over long crest, 50 down. Left 2 long.
Dick Archer drove well again to finish 21st overall. Class N1 was won by grandfather Ernest Macmillan's Suzuki Swift, while Gary Wilson won Class N3 in his Rover 200. Andrew Kearney won the up to 1300cc class in his Opel Corsa, and Nigel Arnfield from Cumbria carried off the spoils in the bigger engine Class A6. And it was a first-time win in the Lombard Junior category for Ian Scott in his Nova. Richard Burns and Robert Reid could only stand and stare as Malcolm Wilson kept it all together in the Escort Cosworth to cruise to a long overdue victory.
So Malcolm Wilson's luck had held at last. His Ford was as reliable as it and he were quick. He won by a massive 3 minutes 13 seconds from a trio of Subarus, Fisher, McRae, McKinstry. But this table tells an even more significant story. Wilson's win and Burns' excursion means that for the first time since 1988, the British Championship will not be decided until the final round. And no fewer than 5 drivers will still have a chance of taking the title when the challengers set sail for the Isle of Man.
Bad jump by Wall.
Malcolm Wilson will certainly hope to repeat this incredibly dominant drive.
40. Flat right, jump, 300 over bad jumps.
Who will be shaking the championship champagne at the end of the Manx Rally?
Easy left plus, right plus 120. Flat left plus to crest 70, T90 right. 70. Fast left on crest 250. T90 left minus 170. Right plus 100. Flat left on jump 70. Jump 350. Left max on bumps 100. Caution jump 200. Turn slippy 90 left 70. Easy right bumpy 120.
50 down. Left 3 over crest long down. Tightens left 4. Right 2. Left 3 long tightens. Care right 2 over long crest. Tightens right 4. Left 1. That's right 5 long. Left 4 late. Right 3 tightens.
The crest, turn hairpin right unseen, gravel. .600 over bumps. Easy left long. 140. Left max over crest 20, turn fast left onto slippy tarmac. To turn medium right. 40, flat left and flat jump to flat jump 130. Care, flat left continues over jumps. 40, flat left, 50 over crest, easy right. To turn medium right. 30, easy left, care, easy right. 50. Flat left long, 60. Flat right 30, turn square right unseen, slight gravel. .20. Late easy left long over crest, turn fast, K right. .120, flat left, 70 over mud and bumps, care flat left 50, flat crest leftish 80, crest care easy left long, 20 care easy right over crest opens,
Mobil 1 Top Gear British Rally Championship is approaching crunch time. After 4 exciting rounds, it's all down to the last event for the first time since 1988. 5 drivers will fight it out for the title here on the Isle of Man. The Manx Rally, the final round of this year's Mobil 1 Top Gear British Rally Championship. Leading contender Malcolm Wilson was back in action after a major accident in Finland.
The only thing we can do is to go and try and win the rally. I mean, I'm obviously not in the best of health to do it, but I mean, we're going to give it our best shot. I mean, we really have to do that to stand any chance of winning a championship, and that's even, you know, even if Richard still finishes in the top 4, I mean, he still wins it, so it's a pretty tall order for us, really.
I'm not going to go so slow as to lose concentration, but I'm not going to be going that fast as to take any chances either, so a bit in the middle.
To help Malcolm Wilson's chances, Ford had promoted another driver.
In theory, if we can help Malcolm win the championship, with Richard having to finish 4th and Malcolm to win, then obviously Malcolm needs people in between him and Richard Burns, and really that's why I've been drafted in.
I would quite like to beat Gwyndaf, obviously, because that would put us 3rd overall in the championship, which one of us will get it, whoever beats each other.
Really, it's Group N championship we are really interested in. It would be a massive bonus if we go win it overall, but we depend a lot on the the top runners having ill luck.
The championship position, it couldn't have been tighter. Anyone in the top 5 could mathematically win. Malcolm Wilson 6 points ahead of Richard Burns, whose teammate Alistair McRae is a further 7 points adrift. Then Gwyndaf Evans and David Llewellyn. So the famous TT pit lanes being used, 4 wheels this time instead of the usual 2. The cars soon to know every inch of the island. The first day, considered by everyone the hardest of the event, was to be split into 17 stages in 2 legs. That's 158 kilometres of stages, including the Spectator Special at Castletown.
The first of these stages was only 100 yards from the start, and Malcolm Wilson was quick off the mark as usual.
Left entry over water, medium right long over forward.
The tracks were treacherous, and the traditional water splashes were very full.
Left max wet, 30. Crest, keep left wet, right max, 20.
Bertie Fisher's Subaru didn't look like this for long. It looked very second-hand after a high-speed cartwheel, which amazingly damaged everything but the roof. Kenny McKinstry's driving was of the highest calibre, despite a painful spin on the opening stage. He was second equal overall to Richard Burns, but the Reading driver knew he only needed to finish 4th or higher to take the title, and his steady driving was proving very quick indeed.
And right max to late, 90 left. To
Robbie Head's first Group A drive nearly ended in a puff of smoke, literally. His fire extinguisher went off, dropping him to 16th place from an encouraging 5th. Alistair McRae was still hoping to emulate his big brother Colin and grab the championship.
Medium left and medium left, 50, hairpin right. Yeah.
Those ambitions ended abruptly against a stone wall and put our camera out of action too.
We just clipped the wall back down there in the hairpin right, hit the wall, and I don't know whether it's damaged the steering or I'm not really sure, but just accelerated up over the hill. The car just turned right itself, and obviously you can see it's stuck and no way getting it out.
David Llewellyn was once again showing a clean pair of heels to his rivals, in more ways than one.
30, braking, crest 70, slippy 5 left, narrow bridge.
Next week come dancing. Gwyndaf Evans was leading Group N, eyes firmly on the title. Frank Marr was enjoying himself in the four-wheel drive Sierra. Last year it was a two-wheel drive version. James Cullinan was after the Group N tarmac honours. Mark Higgins might have been on home ground, but it took the caution of Mike Corner to avoid drama here, thanks to his pace notes.
And caution, right too forward. There may be water in here, be careful. A lot of water, look, a lot of water. 50, left 4, 40.
At the first services, a chance to assess any damage and some subtle repairs.
Everything seemed to be fine, but we're probably just a little bit too fast, and with it being slippery, the back of the car broke away and hit the wall. And there's a wall on the right-hand side, and hit the wall with the driver's side, rear of the car, and then it swung the front of the car into the wall and rolled over the passenger side and done a full 360 loop and landed on its wheels.
Kenny McKinstry dislocated his finger on the opening stage, causing problems all round.
Yeah, Robbie's working the gear lever on reverse gear now, so...
Really?
Yeah, well, thank goodness we haven't had to use it so far, but that's the plan anyway.
That's the real meaning of a co-driver, isn't it?
Well, you have to use these boys for something, don't you?
You've had a bit of a problem on the third stage, Robbie.
Yeah, about 2/3 of the way through, just coming up to a hairpin left. Coming along the straight, I started smelling these fumes, and about 500 yards later the car started misfire, and then it just conked out completely. It wouldn't go at all. And I saw a lot of smoke in the mirror and in the car, and I thought the turbo had gone, and it turned out to be the fire extinguisher. So, but the fumes that come off it are just unbelievable. They go for you. I mean, it must be like a glue sniffer's paradise in there, because when I got to the end of the stage, I just didn't know where I was. It just goes for you.
Malcolm Wilson, with his rebuilt car and rebuilt shoulder, was extending his lead. He was now 40 seconds ahead of his nearest rival.
Flat left, 30 over crest, easy right damp, flat left wet, 40, fast left slippy, and right max, and flat left, and flat.
The Subaru of Kenny McKinstry and Robbie Philpott was still in second position. He was just ahead of Richard Burns.
Crest, 30, easy right, and right minus, 50.
Burns was taking it oh so steady on those wet roads. For him, caution was uppermost in his mind. Meanwhile, Bertie Fisher's one-eyed Subaru was looking a bit healthier in fourth place. Frank Marr, a long way from his Tipperary home, was having desperate problems. For him, it was a rally he'd remember for all the wrong reasons.
Terrible problems. We've changed 2 gearboxes now, and the car is dangerous on the road. She's nervous, she's jumping all over the place. We're changing the back shocks now, seeing would that make any difference, but I don't think so. I think there's something wrong with the front of it.
Chris Birkbeck had started to get to grips with his powerful Escort. He was lying 6th. Meanwhile, Robbie Head was flying. He'd gone from 16th to 8th. Local boy Gary Leese was relying on Manx's knowledge, which was serving him well. and forklift truck dealer David Greer was going a good deal faster in his Escort.
Chris, what? This is a new idea. Whose is that?
Well, it's mine really, Tony. I mean, basically, you know, when we're on a dirty service area like this, just keeps the wheel nuts. It's a magnetic tray, puts them in, and stops them getting all dirty on the threads.
Whatever next.
Well, there you go.
3, 2, 1, go.
Just 4 hours into the rally, Malcolm Wilson's courageous and teeth-gritting attempt to give Ford the glory came to a sad and sudden end. He was caught out on cold tyres, but happily escaped unhurt.
There's a bit of a kink just down the road there. The car just got out of phase a little bit, just touched the bank, and we thought probably get away with it, but it just hit the bank again and rolled onto its roof across the road. Front end on one bank and the back end on the other. And that's really taken half an hour just to get it back on its wheels, so we're at the rally, finished.
Now Richard Burns knew that his destiny was in his own hands. He had to keep it on the island for 29 sweaty stages. He certainly looked in control.
Like Max on Grace, 600. Reaching right plus and chevron. 2, 1, go!
But it was Kenny McKinstry who held nearly a minute's lead, despite his handicap.
I thought about going to hospital, but the doctor said that if there was anything broken, he'd have to plaster it. So if we plastered it, we couldn't drive, so we decided not to go to hospital, just suffer with it and basically try and keep the swelling down.
There was still plenty of fun for the spectators to focus on. Now the 68 survivors from 78 starters faced a challenge at the Castletown version of Monaco, harbour and all. Is this their casino square?
Just turned into by the monument and thought that was a bit wild. It went way over to the right and dived down on the front, and co-driver said the wheels come off. So we've done the rest of the stage on 3 wheels, and hopefully these boys get it sorted out now. The wheel studs have actually sheared off.
Do you think you'll be able to get it on and away?
I hope so. I hope so. I've had so much bad luck this year. Then, well, I just can't believe it. I need to finish this rally.
Richard Burns was sharing those sentiments. Despite getting fastest time on the last 2 stages, he was 40 seconds behind McKinstry at the end of the day.
70. Flat right.
Frank Marr simply got it wrong here, but he was still 4th.
Flat right, long 50, 4 rights. It is 4 right.
Gwyndaf Evans was 7th overall and in sight of the Group N title, but he was lucky still to be in the rally at all.
70, 6 left, 100.
Big dramas. Got another fright, I'm afraid. We were luckily only half a mile from the end of the last stage today, and the front hub broke, and we lost the steering and the brakes going down a 500 yard straight, and I tell you, my pulse must have been reaching 1,000.
Kenny McKinstry was happy to be ahead, but was well aware of the Burns challenge.
Richard's going actually very quickly, so he is maybe win this rally yet, you never know.
Day 2 promised another tough examination of the island's nooks and crannies. 10 stages in all. That's 130 kilometres of hard driving.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The day didn't begin well for Kenny McKinstry and his legacy. As he roared off into the first stage of the day, drama was waiting for him just around the corner.
Just stepped out over a little jump and touched the grass on the right hand side, and spun like completely around 3-4 times, and ended up heading up the stage the wrong way. So dropped quite a bit of time, and we've done a bit of damage to the car as well. So.
McKinstry wasn't the only driver having problems. Bertie Fisher was about to get acquainted with the local hedgerows.
And I just came down to a corner where, I just knew it wasn't going to stop. The pedal was too far down, and I sort of tried to chuck it at the corner to get it round, and the back of it dropped into a drain, and the front of it dropped into the drain on the other side. It wasn't a big problem. I lost a couple of seconds, and 2 or 3 corners further down the stage, the same thing again. The pedal just went down. This time it dropped into the drain. Wouldn't come out. Let it get a lot of spectators. We've lost a bit of time.
Keep it counting now, keep it counting.
Sadly, his rally was over. Better times, though, for Frank Marr. He'd moved up to 3rd spot. Further down the field, the view from Scott Bradshaw's car picked out Steve Bennett's overturned Peugeot. He got going, but retired not long afterwards. This left Richard Burns with the lead of the rally. So much for his intention to take it easy.
200. Easy left on crest. 50. Late fast right minus.
Behind him, David Greer had worked his way into 9th position. Manxman Gary Leese was on his heels in 10th spot. And Stuart Fennick in his Relax Sierra was in the top 10. He's more used to continental rallying. Today, like everyone else though, he was heading for lunch by the sea.
Well, we're going probably sort of 90%, 85%, something like that. Enough to keep the concentration going, and I'm just listening to the notes and driving to them perfectly and sticking to a good line rather than attacking and making any mistakes.
Meanwhile, Mike Corner was checking that Ian Grinrod's pace notes were accurate. At least they were in English, which is more than could be said about this team from Russia. They were welcome visitors to this multinational event. It probably makes a change from having to rally larders.
We have a lot of experience with a lot of cars during many years, and now we are really happy that we have a very normal, very good car like Vauxhall Nova from MSD. It's very difficult to compare such kind of cars.
How long did it take you to come from Moscow to the Isle of Man?
Nearly 5 days. It's a great travel, but also it's very good for us.
So it's worth it?
Yeah, sure.
Remember him? The folk hero of the RAC Rally. Yes, it's Michael Kalfas from Magdeburg, back in the Trabant. Frank Marr was still having exciting times in his Sierra, thanks to a Duff diff. His problems promoted Robbie Head into 3rd place. Quite a fight back after the dramas with the fire extinguisher. Gwyndaf Evans was just about to hear that he had a problem.
Slippy square right. Puncture. Keep going. No, go to the junction over there, I think.
That puncture on stage 26 enabled James Cullen and his lady co-driver Ellen Morgan to take the Group N lead. Ian Scott was hoping for another win in the Lombard Junior category. He'd already won in Ulster. But a win wouldn't be enough to prevent Brendan Creeley taking the overall title. Richard Colquitt was using his local knowledge to lead the N1 class in his Suzuki Swift. And fellow residents Nigel and Michaela Cannell were the leading N2 crew in their Toyota. Denmark's Tim Svanholt finished 13th on the Manx last year, but he would drop down a place this time. A young man to watch, 21-year-old Andrew Kearney, who had just become Irish junior champion. He was leading the A5 class, while Jeff Stewart was taking the A6 honours in this Nova. And so day 2 ended with no clouds on Richard Burns' championship horizon.
Day 3 of the Manx Rally, another 10 stages, another 119 kilometres for the drivers before a seafront finish on Douglas Promenade. The big question now, who could catch Richard Burns? His hopes of victory here, and with it the championship, were looking good. In the shadow of the Laxey wheel, Kenny McKinstry was once again remedying problems. This time things didn't look good.
Broke a drive shaft at the start of Mobil. So
how much time did that drop you?
Oh, over a minute. It was just the only way to get through the stage was with keeping the brake on so the centre diff would lock all 3 wheels up. So.
I see that you've got Richard Burns' Subaru mechanics working on your car now. Why is that?
Yeah, well, I mean, they come up, so they did, so they're giving us a bit of a hand, which isn't a bad thing.
Adversity seems to bring out the best in the rallying fraternity. Robbie Head in his Escort Cosworth was now consolidating 3rd spot. Some consolation for the Ford team after Wilson's exit, and all useful experience for Robbie's rallying future. Meanwhile, Chris Birkbeck was performing splendidly in his borrowed Escort. There was even time for a cheeky wave. And what of the Manx driver Gary Leese? He had a good rally, really, until mechanical problems finally forced him out. As Gary worked to repair his car, Johnny Milner might have been reflecting on his disappointing year in the Shell Scholarship car. The Audi simply couldn't live with the Escorts in Group N. A much happier driver, David Greer. He finished 9th and was even saluted by his very own fan club. And relaxing in 10th spot, Stuart Fennick in his Sierra. Quite a result this in his first Manx rally.
A familiar face, Norman Wisdom taking a keen interest in the championship's closing stages. Brendan Creeley overcame suspension problems to take the Lombard Junior crown in his Honda Civic and the N2 class just for good measure. Gary Wilson gave one of the few rallying rovers the N3 class, despite a few scars. Yet another class win for Skoda. Kevin Williams won the A5 category. And Nick Hutchinson brought his Nova home ahead of his A6 rivals. The season ended with more honours for David Llewellyn. The former British champion claimed a Formula 2 title for Vauxhall.
Braking 80. Short 5 right. 130. Turn 6 left. 30.
Jump 50.
Fellow Welshman Gwyndaf Evans richly deserved his 3rd British Group N title, this time in the Vector Escort.
Into flat right long, Titan 70. Flat right long, Titan 70. 3 right of a jump. 3 right of a jump. Into 3 right and left of a bump. 3 right and left of a bump.
But the major Manx achievement was, of course, that of Richard Burns. the disarming driver from Reading not only won his 4th rally of the season, but became the youngest ever British champion at only 22 years of age.
Congratulations, Richard. What does that feel like?
Absolutely fantastic. The last 200 or 300 yards just going down that stage, I was just going down the gears and braking, and it's all happened.
You've done it.
Absolutely. Now we're going to have a party.
So, after 5 hard-fought rallies, Richard Burns had amassed a mighty lead. But just look at the scramble for second place. Malcolm Wilson 91 points, Gwyndaf Evans just a point behind, and Dave Llewellyn only another point adrift. Still, the season belonged to Richard Burns and his co-driver Robert Reid. It was his 4th major title in 4 consecutive seasons. Just what can we expect him to achieve next year? With driving of this stunning quality, control, verve, and above all, youthful confidence.
Easy right to rest. 100. Right and flat left.
Flat right of a bump 30. Flat right of a bad bump 60. Fast right opens 50. Turn medium left slippy. And easy right over crest slippy. 40. Flat left 20. Late flat left. 150 over crest, keep right, flat left long continues, 200, turn fast left unseen,
Media twist 6 right and 7 left sharp, 6 right and 7 left sharp and 8 right sharp, 150, 7 left sharp, 6 right sharp opens into 3 right keep in, 3 right keep in, and twist 3 left and right of a crest, and 3 right keep in to left entry slot 7 right, entry slot 7 right, 50, 7 right sharp,
then 2 right and 3 left tightens and 1 left 80, 5 right 40, 5 left tightens 100, open right 100, press right and unseen 3 left and 2 right and press left jump 50, care bumps on braking 3 right minus and open left over crest 30, care bump 3 left very narrow 30, care jump long open right mud on exit 50, absolute right 130 very twisty, care 1 right over jump 130, bump over second crest, long open right tightens long 100,
70, flat left and easy right minus, 50, easy left late, and right tightens, and flat right, left 50, left max in at push, and flat right over crest, 30, fast right minus, and left to flat left minus, 70, flat right minus late, and left 170, left max tightens bad past second white, and flat right minus long to left max 100, turn 90 left, narrow out, flat left, right into medium right, 30, flat left green, 50, right max, left minus, 100, flat left, 50, left max and left minus to flat right minus long, to flat left minus and easy left minus long, opens to crest, to flat left and right crest 50, bump right max 70, slippy braking, medium right plus narrow 70, slippy TK left 30, K right plus 50, crest left max 120, left max on crest and left crest 100, left max 2 crest 200, turn before wall, medium left minus, and right max to left, 90 left, to fast left, long 70, hairpin 1 right, 50, medium left plus, opens to crest and medium right, to flat left in, and flat left, right plus, easy left, 30, left over 30, fast right minus, opens, 50, flat right, water, 50, right plus, and left, 100, easy left, tightens at 30, 50, 90 right, 50, long absolute crest, 150, easy left,